for as long as we've come together. People everywhere have used maps to share what they know, make sense of the world, and navigate the challenges ahead. Now today, that our very existence is threatened, we need to collaborate more than ever. We need a common language to find common ground. Your maps tell stories of how we depend on nature. And though it's fragile, with help, it can flourish. Maps allow people with different backgrounds, expertise, to see what is, and understand what can be. Maps help us see alternatives. Find agreement on what's best. Where others see conflict, your maps help find solutions. Maps make clear it's not division, but inclusion that makes us whole. Maps tell us about where we are, who we are, and who we hope to be. We are visual, spatial. Finding our way forward demands a geographic approach that unifies our best technology, science, and design thinking into a common vision. You and your maps are essential for mapping common ground.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. It's amazing to have you all back in person. We have really, really missed you. We've been doing quite a few of these shows, and a lot of them been online, and we're very, very excited to have you here at this new premises, and my team is so excited. Anyway, let's get on with it. Good morning. My name's Dwayne Eagle, Managing Director of Eagle Technology. On behalf of the team at Eagle, I want to give you a very, very warm welcome to the New Zealand 2022 Esri User Conference. We're particularly excited to be here face to face again after 3 years, and especially at this awesome venue. I think this is one of the best we've ever been to, so it's great. It's been probably through, 1997 was when we were last in Christchurch, so very exciting. I can genuinely say that I've never ever seen my team more excited about putting on an event. We've been working really, really hard over the last few months, and very, very excited to put this on for you guys today. And I hope that you will see the work that's been put in. Outside of the conference, work from Eagle has been carrying on very, very strongly over the last few years. Eagle and Esri have both grown through this time. We're very, very excited to be able to deliver and grow with you guys. We've got a whole lot of new customers here, and I want to make sure that we make a warm welcome to the new ones that are along. So please share with me and welcome them very, very dearly. I also want to acknowledge the ongoing and invaluable work of the New Zealand Esri user group. They've been involved for many, many years and helped pull this together. Finally, I want you to know that we continue to value you all as customers, and we genuinely believe that we have the best GIS community on the planet right here in New Zealand. Now it is my distinct pleasure to welcome someone who you might know. Jack Dangeman has a few short words for you, the President and founder of Esri Technology. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the conference. Very, very excited to see you all here. It's great. Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. It's my great pleasure to participate in opening and welcoming all of you to this wonderful users conference here in Christchurch. This is the first time our users in the New Zealand and South Pacific region have gotten together in 3 years, and the first time in 20 years, I believe, that we've been here in Christchurch. I really wish I could be there with you. I mean, it's one of my favorite countries in the world to visit, and particularly the culture always grabs my heart. So really nice to be with you, at least virtually in this sense. You know, this is an important meeting. It's not only the first time we're getting together in a long time, but it's also, we're operating in a world which is challenged on many fronts. And you know this in the environment, in our social environment, and the way that we are moving ahead is challenging. And some of my colleagues and I have thought about this a lot and suggested that one of our greatest challenges is the lack of understanding in the world. And here we sort of understand the world, but some aspects of the world have been polarized in such a way that it's not well understood. And at the same time, complementing in a way this lack of understanding is our inability to actually collaborate in creating meaningful solutions that address these big challenges. So this meeting, this particular meeting, is all about learning and sharing, of course, in the technology area, but it's also about making friends and making relationships, finding common ground, as the theme suggests for the conference. And you, particularly GIS professionals, have a unique role to play in this. It seems to me that only you can really understand so much of the complexity of this world. You, your work, and how you do your work is really one of the amazing positive aspects of what I think about and believe about our future holds. Only you can really understand, and also you are equipped with the tools and the methods and the means to be able to address these big challenges. So I encourage you to think this way through the next few days. And I encourage you to make friends and look at how you can develop collaborative solutions for addressing these big challenges. And this meeting is one that I hope will touch not only your minds, but also your hearts and the way you think about how we address these problems into the future, because you are very important players in this future. History will judge all of us based on our success of being able to address these challenges, and I'm hopeful that the digital geography that we work with, GIS to be clear, has a major play to help this challenge we're having of lack of understanding and bringing our world together in more collaborative ways. Once again, thank you very much for coming to this meeting, and I look forward to next time I can be down there in New Zealand enjoying being with you. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Scott Campbell, and as the head of GIS Technology at Eagle Technology, I want to give a very warm welcome, as well as Jack and Dwayne, to all of you coming here today. As Jack and Dwayne both said, it's a long time since we met face to face, and it's really great to be back with this community. This community, you, are an amazing group who represent a geographically focused cross-section of almost every sector in New Zealand and actually the wider region. With almost 600 individuals and over 200 organizations represented here today, you represent the largest gathering of geospatial professionals, managers, and executives in this unique region. We're particularly excited to be welcoming those from across New Zealand to this event, but also to have representatives from further afield, from Australia, from the South Pacific, and indeed from Europe. So again, welcome to all of our guests to this amazing venue. As we heard from Jack, there's a strong purpose for our community gathering here, and arguably this is more important now than ever before. This purpose has actually not changed in the 20+ years that we've been holding these kinds of events, to learn, to share, to connect, while at the same time having fun and inspiring one another to be even more successful in our various kinds of work. However, I don't think that I'm alone when I say I feel an increasing sense of urgency to make this work successful rapidly. This vital work, which Jack described earlier, relates to challenges at a global and local scale, and which I think offers potential to connect many different disciplines, and perhaps more importantly, to find or map out those areas of common ground, whether in the social, environmental, urban, or economic landscapes in which you work. Over the next 3 days, we're going to have an opportunity to hear about each other's work, as well as about the work of Esri, of ourselves at Eagle. But right now, I want to take a moment to briefly recognize just some of your work by describing a few examples which I think you'll all find interesting. The first of these is the work being undertaken by the Fiji Ministry of Lands and Mineral Resources, an organization who hosts the Vanuatu online application. This application contains not only Fiji's cadastre data, but many other vital GIS layers, including transportation, topography, infrastructure, and coastal information. 1 month ago, the ministry made the big decision that this system would be opened up to all as a free public GIS viewer, allowing other organizations to better use and collaborate with these key foundational data layers. This is a significant step, and opening up this application mirrors open data initiatives elsewhere in our wider region, as well as globally. It will undoubtedly increase its use and impact in areas such as the planning for sea level rise. I think this is great news, and I want to recognize the ministry for this great work. Another organisation who I'd like to recognise here is Herenga Nuku Aotearoa, the Outdoor Access Commission. Previously known as New Zealand Walking Access Commission, they were recently recognised with an Esri Special Achievement in GIS Award. This award was for their great work in creating Pocket Maps, a native application created with App Studio and allowing New Zealanders to put detailed access and topographic mapping in their pockets wherever they go. On top of this, their work was also featured in the recent Esri International UC in front of about 18,000 people. So well done to the team at Herenga Nuku Aotearoa. A quick round of applause for their work, please. Road speed limits and communication of those limits to road users are core to road safety. The new National Speed Limit Register application from Waka Kotahi makes it easy for the public as well as internal stakeholders to access and use this authoritative speed limit data for all of New Zealand through a powerful but intuitive web interface, which includes sophisticated editing rules for internal users. Alongside the focus on safety, this new application is seen as improving accuracy of speed limits, overall network performance, as well as importantly growing public trust and credibility. You can check out the public website for your own streets and towns. The next work I want to look at briefly is not from a single organisation, but from a number who are using the same tools to address similar challenges in various different parts of New Zealand. Urban planning, including the National Policy Statement for Urban Development, requires not only lots of map-based data, but also complex analysis and tools to visually engage the many stakeholders for any given city. A number of New Zealand cities are working with the ArcGIS Urban application to model the outputs and outcomes for potential planning scenarios, including visualization of how these will look and calculations of housing potential for population, as well as using it to visualize in 3D specific design projects or zoning opportunities. In particular, I want to mention the ongoing work with Eagle and Palmerston North City Council, as well as the work being undertaken by GHD with Wellington City Council and Porirua City Council. The final piece of work I want to mention is another which recently won an award. In this case, the 2022 GeoCart Best Print Map, which was awarded to Andrew Tyrrell. This beautiful map goes to show that printed maps are still a strong and elegant way to communicate in this digital age. Well done, Andrew. Switching from your work, I now want to move on to our work, by which I mean the collective work of Esri and Eagle and of our network of partners. This work is focused on providing technology and support to help you to be successful in your many and varied tasks. And this is work which we take very seriously as we recognize the important endeavors that it supports. ArcGIS is a comprehensive system which supports multiple communities, not just industry communities, but also technology communities, GIS, mapping, location analytics, imagery, and also developers. We do this through software and software in the cloud, as well as powerful web services. ArcGIS is an integrated technology platform. It has various components such as cloud, servers, as well as powerful services. It has multiple experiences such as desktop, web, or mobile applications. The big vision here is that we can be integrated and connected, extending the powerful capabilities and opening up collaboration between organizations, which is key to success. Another vision for ArcGIS is that it has 3 different focus areas. One is a system of record keeping, such as the cadaster, or the wires, or the pipes, or the trees. It's also a system of insights for analytics, very powerful spatial analysis tools, and finally, it's a system of engaging people with maps and apps. The interesting thing about this system is that these 3 are actually one. They're highly integrated, and so they work as a single system. ArcGIS has also been designed to be open and interoperable at its core. Part of this is the architecture which uses open APIs, but it's also through supporting open standards and open data. And as you will see, increasingly support accessibility standards for all to use. All of this has been designed to help integrate our systems into mixed technology environments, which is the reality in the real world. At its heart, GIS is about integrating different kinds of data in the form of layers. And now these layers represent an amazing range of different data sources. We've gone way beyond shapefiles. Graph databases, voxels, big data, BIM and CAD data, multidimensional data, and 3D textured meshes. All of these available in combination across the ArcGIS system. This technology is advancing rapidly. Not only is it advancing in its own right, but it's also been driven and integrating many of the new technologies that are emerging in the wider technology landscape: cloud, AI, machine learning, security, mobility, etc. We're going to be showing some of these advancements this morning, and then looking at more detail at these over the course of the next 3 days, both the technology itself and also how you, the community, are using it to be successful. One of the key advancements in recent years has been the combined work to better integrate the data, experiences, and workflows of 2 related disciplines: GIS, which we all know, and BIM, Building Information Modeling. Specifically, the partnership between Esri and Autodesk. At a technical level in ArcGIS, this can be seen in the form of new tools, applications, support for exciting new formats, and so on. But perhaps the most exciting part of this is what can be achieved through this collaboration, i.e. the movement of information along through the life cycle of the objects they represent themselves, between the various systems in a seamless way, without the need to lose the rich data quality that we had to start with. To tell us more about this opportunity, I want to introduce a special guest to the stage, Andreas Lippold. As the product manager at Esri, Andreas focuses on customer requirements in the areas of Esri's 3D, AEC, and Smart Cities products. He has extensive experience in product management and design-based thinking, especially in the AEC area. Over the last 12 years, he's worked in the product management in AEC, 3D, and AR/VR, and has 15 years of experience in the geospatial industry. As a thought leader at Esri, Andreas helps shape the vision and direction of Esri's 3D and digital twin initiatives, data models, and also the solution development. We're very pleased to welcome Andreas to his first time to NZAUC, but not his first time to Christchurch. Andreas.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Scott, for giving me the opportunity to talk here at this awesome user conference. Long way for me to come here, but I'm very excited to be here. Yeah, as mentioned, my name is Andreas Lippold, and I'm leading our 3D technology at Esri in the product management domain. And today I would like to talk about a couple of things. One is like what we do mean when we think of the term smart cities, right? And how it relates and how it connects to digital twins. And what are these in general as well? I guess when we think of the term smart city twin, smart city, digital twin, we think of various things, right? everyone has a different understanding of what this means for us. And when we put those terms, and maybe this helps to actually understand this, into Google, we most likely find out those pictures, right? IoT, similar pictures. Digital twin, similar pictures, right? It's all about connectivity, right? It's connecting items so that they know from each other, they learn from each other, they understand each other, so that we can actually solve problems that the future may give and even the present. I found this little quote here from Jane Jacobs, which was a critic in the 60s. She said, "We may wish for easier all-purpose analysis and for simpler, magical all-purpose cures, but wishing cannot change these problems into simpler matters than organized complexity, no matter how much we try to evade realities and to handle them as something different." We are trying to understand this complex world around us, to analyze, to simulate, and to believe that we can create a better future, by inventing smart and more efficient and sustainable ways of dealing with this complex reality. And that's why we come up with concepts like digital twins, like smart cities, and tools like digital twins. Let me quickly go back and look at the drivers. These look familiar to you, I guess, right? It's all about people, moving assets, moving people, moving things around, looking after infrastructure, looking after assets. And it's all related to the growth of people in the urban areas, within the cities. And as you can see in the core areas, it's distributed across all fields we are dealing with, a city is dealing with. And I'm sure you are aware of many more problems we need to solve. So what are these things? I have a little picture here, and this shows you, layering information on top of each other. Starting from the bottom, you have a terrain, you have buildings, you have transportation assets. Later on, you have moving pieces, you have IoT devices connected. And when we look at this, we can easily divide it into 3 areas, just to compare the concept of smart cities in relation to digital twin. When we look at the smart city side of things, we see 3 tiers, 3 statuses of a city. And the first one is the action of seeing things. And when you look at the first layers, it's bringing all the information together. It creates a virtual representation of the city, a 3D model. So this is what we may call a virtual city, right? The second tier is adding knowledge to it, connecting it to sensors, right? So it becomes smart. So this is the state where we do this action of thinking, and it becomes a smart city. There's one tier above, and maybe there are more tiers above, but in relation to a real digital twin, when it comes to feeding back this information out of the virtual world into the reality to actually make purposeful predictions, then the smart city becomes, acts actually. It becomes a responsible city, an autonomous city. And when we look at the tool itself, a digital twin starts off with several maturity levels. And the first one might be creating a twin, building up this 3D representation, what we see all over the place. Connecting it to sensors, we run this digital twin actually, right? It runs, it gives us information. And then the next level would be automated digital twins that can do things by themselves, to solve problems by themselves because they are fed from the reality and can deal with that information and pipe it back into reality. Just to give you a little red line maybe, or start thinking about those terms. I would like to go back to smart cities and what we think at Esri. At Esri, we have an integrated approach to smart cities, and we have 4 pillars. Number 1 is a smart city starts with smart planning. So this is all about how we do build cities, where everybody is involved and engaged and connected, right? Number 2, good services. How can we be operational and effective? to people who call this place home. Number 3 is data-driven performance. So if we get all data into one place and then visualize it to everybody, then it really helps us to increase the quality of everybody's life. Number 4 is civic inclusion. And we really do think that connecting people and getting people engaged so that they will collaborate more, the better solutions we can build and the smarter the cities get. In order to reach this smart city state, we are using tools. And one of the tools might be a digital twin. And we think of this concept of a living digital twin as aimed at solving many of these challenges I just mentioned before. Therefore, we believe in the connecting power of location intelligence to bring together all these adjacent worlds and distinct worlds, with geospatial technology at the heart of creating relationships and streamlining workflows. And a useful way of looking at a living digital twin is highlighted here in this maturity circle. And it all starts in the middle with the system of record, with the 3D system of record, where all this data sits and lives in. First here, on top of it, is reality capture, where we start to create an accurate as-built data set. Right? It could be meshes, it could be 3D models, it could be other kinds of information that feeds into the 3D system of record. The second tier, which we call the ArcGIS system, is actually the system you know all of. Right? It inherits the data, it produces output, and based on all the configurable components which we have for visualization and simulation, analysis and more, this helps to drive results from the data. Beyond this, we have the benefit of open data and providing access to APIs. And number 4 is actually facilitated by IoT sensors and indoor positioning systems. So this is providing a data flow from the reality into our virtual model, right, to make it smart. And last but not least, we will have the tier of applications and solutions. And for us, this is what we operationalize as digital twins. These could be different twins for different purposes: planning twin, operation twin, whatever twin you can think of solving a certain problem. And one thing I just want to highlight, because it's really important, and this is the underlying structure, and that's why we are all here, that GIS creates digital twins of the natural and built environment. And uniquely, as you can see, integrates a lot of different types of digital models. GIS has been playing a role in this capacity for a very long time. And the reason why we are so well suited in this is because it's all about location, right? We provide this location aspect. Location is what connects everything and everybody. So therefore, GIS is definitely a player in this role of building digital twins. And I want to go on with a couple of examples. This is an example which shows you the voxel layer, but this relates to landscape information modeling. These are one of those models which we're doing since a long, long time, right? And these information models can, at the end of the day, tie into an environmental twin, for example, or a twin that manages certain aspects of the environment, whatever it might be. There are a couple of examples in this video. Maybe the bike parking is not something which is environmental, but it has some good visual experiences that can be drawn to address other things like heat maps for pollution or something like this. The second here I was showing is the BIM information. Scott was talking about it. Bringing together GIS and BIM is a big aspect. Everybody is aware of the benefit that each of those disciplines brings to the other one. And this is all about bringing in design information from a design tool to bring it into our system, to bring it into context, into geolocated in a wider context and provide more context. What you can see here is the Autodesk world on the right-hand side and the Esri side on the left-hand side. And this is going to be a big discussion, hopefully, over the next couple of days, and I'm happy to get your feedback on this one. Another one is the network information modeling. So it's about networks like connected power lines, utilities, water, gas, etc., pp. Right? Usually a 2D domain. Yeah, but using 3D technology, visualize it in the third dimension, and can give you much more insights. And these could potentially end up in an operational twin to maintain a station, a network, whatever it might be. You can think of many, many more use cases outside of the network information modeling. And then we really talk at scale. We are starting to talk at city scale, right? This is why we are talking about digital twins of a city. This is what we are aiming for, to see the whole city in its total and go in and get the information connected in order to analyze, in order to simulate, to solve certain things before they actually happen, or to give answers to those things that already happened. And those things can potentially then tie into a smart city, into a big twin of a city like Christchurch. One more and last example, and this is an example of the city of Gothenburg, and they have taken this city model or digital twin to the next extent by using Unreal as a game engine to provide this experience for visualizing not only the model itself, but also the information in the model, right? Exactly where it needs to be placed, exactly where it relates to, so that you get a good understanding of the information inside space. They are using this city model as well for visualizing real-time information, as you can see here, in various ways, so that it's understandable for the stakeholders who are looking at it. And they are also looking at scenarios to predict the future and not making mistakes by flooding events, etc., pp, so they can simulate it in advance. So time is running, so I'm coming to my last slide, just to come back and summarize what we just heard. We have the big concept of a smart city. This is what a city wants to reach. We are talking about this concept of integrated urban development and engagement by introducing digital innovations. And one of those digital innovations could be a digital twin, which are the virtual representations of the real world, including physical objects, processes, relationships, and behaviors. And GIS, on the base, creates digital twins of the social, natural, and built environment by uniquely integrating many types of digital models. And with that, I would like to thank you, and I'm open for discussions throughout the next days, and I'm happy to hear your input about digital twins, smart cities, and everything else around it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andreas. One thing to think about when you hear about the term digital twin is in Andreas' examples, it was a very much built environment focused scenarios he had. And even in that built environment, there are many other lenses we can apply, social lenses and so on. So for those of you who are not directly involved in the areas of planning or the built environment, I'd encourage you to think about what a digital twin looks like for your discipline. What does a natural environment digital twin look like? What does it look like for agriculture or law enforcement? I think there's some parallels we can take from what Andreas is talking about there for each of our own disciplines. If you want to hear more about the role of digital twins and ArcGIS as well as smart cities, there's a number of sessions we have throughout the next 3 days where you can hear more, both tomorrow and on Thursday. Now I want to look at the individual but connected products that make up the ArcGIS system. I want to begin with the foundational but highly dynamic aspect of the ArcGIS system, namely content and the living atlas. This unique aspect of ArcGIS brings together curated GIS data in many forms in an easy-to-consume library covering New Zealand, the South Pacific, and the whole planet. Not only is this data itself kept refreshed, but Eagle, Esri, and the global user community are adding many new layers every day. It's also important to remember that this content is a lot more than just base maps, with layers like near real-time data from satellites and traffic information included alongside many rich vector layers. So, to learn more about what's new in this area, I want to pass over to Eagle's GIS content lead, Boudewijn Bougaard, who will say, apparently as they say in the Netherlands, he'll show us for a quick look in the kitchen, apparently that's a Netherlands phrase, to show us what's happening behind the scenes. Boudewijn.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. And I hope it becomes clear what having a look in the kitchen means at the end of my presentation. And I think here we're talking about what is the foundational layers when you start building your digital twin. And since we last met face-to-face, a lot of new additions and improvements have been made to Living Atlas. And that's additions from Esri, from Eagle, and from some of you here in this room. And I want to start with talking about the base layers that we make available, the base maps and elevation. And we, for example, we continuously update the New Zealand imagery base map as new data comes available from councils and Toitū Te Whenua. And just over the last year, 40 new datasets have been added to this base map, covering large parts of New Zealand. And some of the areas that have been added aren't quite visible in this view, and those are the outer islands. So Linz made Maxar imagery, 50 centimeter imagery available to all of us, and we've added it to our base map. And I'm just checking with technology that we should see number 4. Yeah, shall I just start with this base map, because this is what I was talking about, the imagery base map. It is actually our most used base map and probably the best used imagery base map here in New Zealand. And like I said, we've added over 40 new datasets that are coming from you and from Toitū Te Whenua. And that covers a large part of New Zealand. And like I said, there are some parts that you can't quite see in this view, and those are the outer islands. So there's 50 centimeter Maxar imagery made available to us all by Toitū Te Whenua. And we've added those to our base map, so we can now actually go to those areas as well, like the Auckland Islands, the Kermadec Islands, Snares Island. And Auckland also made available large parts of rural imagery, but at a 7.5 centimeter resolution, like we can see here on Great Barrier. And this is a resolution that we usually only get in urban areas. It can be quite hard to navigate on an imagery base map. So that is why we released the reference layer. And this reference layer has, among other things, the roads and place names to give more context to your imagery, to the imagery base map. And who knows this base map? So this is the NZ Community base map that has served its purpose well over the years. However, at the start of this year, we moved it to mature support. And that is so we can focus on the vector base maps, like this NZ Navigation vector map. And this, the style of these maps is more balanced, and it gives priority to the data that you put on top of it. And another style that we have is the NZ Topographic Relief. So here we're looking at the normal topographic map, but the relief map is designed to be used with hillshade. And if we put the hillshade on here, we get much more context in this 2D view. And this is using high-resolution elevation data that is being captured at the moment. And that same data goes into our elevation layer that can be used in 3D scenes in ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Pro. But these are just base layers, and they're designed to put your own information on top of, like buildings, trees, water. But it doesn't have to be 3D data. In this case, I added property data from Queensland Lakes District to the map. And that means that if I click in the map, I get information of layers stored in 2D, and it has information about the value, the land use, and the address. So when we add data to Living Atlas, we want to adhere to some baselines. We want to make sure that the layer is current, that it has a consistent data schema, but also that the layers can be used in a variety of applications. And I want to show a couple of examples of layers that are new or improved that follow these baselines. Starting off with the boundary layers. So Stats New Zealand publishes boundary layers every year, and we've been publishing them to Living Atlas since 2018. And every year that a new dataset came available, we added a new item. However, we got feedback that you don't want to switch out your layer, you just want to have the current layer. So that is why we introduced the current layer for all of the data sets in Living Atlas. So if you just need the most up-to-date data, you can add this layer to your map. Staying on the topic of boundary layers, we also introduced the provisional layers for 2023. And that's a data set that Stats New Zealand made available because they're supporting the local body election. So if you need that data in any of your maps or apps, you can use the layers in Living Atlas. Another layer that we've recently added is a New Zealand land cover dataset. So this has data sourced from Manaki Whenua, and we've published this as a feature layer, so it can be used in a variety of applications. For example, here in this interactive legend. And this app allows me to click in the legend and then highlight the features that are related to it, like transportation and urban parks. And if we now zoom in to a part of the Transmission Gully highway, and we request a pop-up, then we don't just get the information of the last classification, which is infrastructure, but it also uses Arcade to look when it was last changed and what it was changed from, and gives that information in the pop-up. So how do we do it? Our look in the kitchen. We often get the question, as in how do you manage, maintain, publish all the data that is in Living Atlas? And it's pretty simple. We use the same tool as all of you. We use ArcGIS for that. And I want to give a couple of examples of tools that we use to manage our data. So the first is the replace layer for vector-based maps, Arcade expressions, and ArcGIS notebooks. So our vector-based maps are made up of a variety of input data sources. We use Python and ArcPy to download the data, wrangle the data into the vector-based map data scheme, and then add a style to it, create a vector tile package, upload it to ArcGIS Online, publish it as a layer, or automate it. Once it's in ArcGIS Online, we can update all the vector-based maps by just replacing the layer. And it can be done through the user interface or using the ArcGIS API for Python. And it has a couple of benefits. So first of all, we can QA the layer before we replace it, because the layer is in ArcGIS Online. Second of all, it just replaces the data underneath. So your item details and the URL won't get updated. And third, if after you replace the layer you find an issue, you can always roll back because the old layer is being archived in ArcGIS Online. The second example is Arcade expression. So I said we use it in our land cover layer, but you can also use it in layers that you don't own. So here I've got an example. I've got a wards boundary layer, and I've got the early childhood education services. And let's call them daycares because that's shorter. The daycares layer is being updated every night, and a lot of changes happen in that. If I would like to create a pop-up that shows me the number of daycares within each ward, before Arcade, I would need to add it to my table. And as it updates, I need to maintain it. But now with Arcade, I can just create a little Arcade expression where I do an intersect and then get the count of the daycares within that boundary. And the pop-up will show the number of daycares within that boundary, and that works for every boundary. And also, if one of the layers gets updated, that will be reflected in the pop-up. And then the last example is the use of ArcGIS notebooks. So what we do is we get usage data for all of the layers that we have in Living Atlas. And we've got an ArcGIS notebook for that. So it has our code, our Python code that pulls the usage data for each item. Using the scheduling capability in ArcGIS Online, we schedule this to run daily. So we can see the results of each of these runs. The data that is being pulled is being pushed into a feature layer. And on top of that feature layer, we've built a dashboard. And here we have a live view of that dashboard filtered on our vector base maps. So what we can see is the usage of the vector base map gradually going up, pretty quick actually, especially since the start of this year. And this is how we keep track of all of our Living Atlas items. So finally, if you have or your organization has authoritative data sets that could help others, you can nominate them by going through the Living Atlas website. And we look really forward to helping you, and we can support you in making your layers ready for Living Atlas. And that way we can expand the Living Atlas for New Zealand and the South Pacific even further. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boudewijn. Thanks for bearing with us on all the technical issues. ArcGIS Online is the core of Esri's SaaS, Software as a Service. It's a cloud-based web GIS, which is not only highly scalable, but is also the ideal way to collaborate, share, and to deploy users inside or outside of your organization. ArcGIS Online is used by millions of users worldwide, including last week I found out my optometrist, which was a bit weird. Ask me later on. Via a combination of web, mobile, and even desktop apps. With each cloud-based release, ArcGIS Online becomes more and more powerful, with functionality and other extensions being added, such as Velocity for real-time data, and ArcGIS Image for sophisticated image management and analysis. To tell us a little bit about some of the latest developments in ArcGIS Online across the last few releases, I want to pass across to Ashley Dye and to James Wright.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, everyone. To start our ArcGIS Online update today, we are going to begin in the map viewer, the place where it all starts. So maps are one of the most powerful tools humans use to communicate. With the most recent updates in Map Viewer, you can now create even more engaging visualizations within your maps. Let me show you a few of these. So first is the use of special effects. Here I have the New Zealand ward boundaries. Choosing a feature-specific effect, I can apply an expression, and then choose drop shadow and transparency. This emphasizes Christchurch CBD on my map and de-emphasizes the rest. And as we all know, climate change is currently driving an increase in the intensity and frequency of flooding, in which we have seen globally and locally here in New Zealand. Thanks to our data sponsor CoreLogic, we have been provided with this flood layer. This layer displays the flooding predictions for a 1 in 10,000 year flooding event. To display a more engaging map, I can apply a blend mode, a functionality from last year's update which controls how colors and textures appear between layers in our map. Choosing Source In pulls through the building outlines layer. And with this update, I can now add layer effects to enhance these affected buildings even further. Choosing Bloom adds a neon-like glow. With parameters you can also customize. And as a result, this creates an emphasis on the buildings at risk here in CBD. This next demo is another example of how using layer effects can enhance your visualizations. So a good indication of climate adaptation in a city is the amount of built-up areas versus green spaces. Here, I have extracted the built-up areas, grassland, and tree coverage from the Living Atlas European Land Cover dataset. Part of the new update, MapViewer now supports complex polygon fills. I can apply a hatch fill to create more unique symbols. And you also have the option to change the color and stroke fill to best represent your data. I can again apply some layer effects to enhance the land cover polygons further. Like before, adding bloom makes the map visually engaging. And then choosing drop shadow and transparency makes the polygons look like they are floating. However, visualizing this data at a regional scale will be quite overwhelming. So we have summarized the land covers for the major urban areas in New Zealand. Automatically, some smart mapping styles are recommended, like the predominant category, which you may already be familiar with. Now, 2 new styles have been added. Charts and charts in sizes. These allow you to display categorical data as pie chart symbols. Choosing charts, you can change the colors, the shape, the size, and then the grouping of the categories. And when choosing a color range now, there are also recommendations based on your underlying base map. We can see that here in Christchurch, tree coverage, which is represented by the dark green slice, it is relatively lower in Christchurch compared to other urban areas. And this is surprising, given that Christchurch is known as the Garden City. So that was only just a few of the new features in MapViewer to enhance your maps, all within a web browser. I hope you can go away now and start getting stuck into some of these.
Awesome, thanks Ashley. In recent years, there's been a coordinated effort to restore some native plants and forests to the slopes of the Port Hills. A specific example is here in the Evoke Valley, where a restoration project is underway by one of the many groups involved, which is the Summit Road Society. They are involved in collaboration with local and central government to restore these native plants. Taking a look at some of these native plants, I can see some demonstration examples of areas of restoration currently underway. Utilising the new editing tools, we can start to plan out new areas ready for our planting team. In the Edit tab, I can add these new proposed areas. Let's go ahead and add a new feature on the left-hand side of the Evoker stream here. Notice when creating these features, I have the new geometry guides, allowing me to see these perfect right angles and perpendicular lines. Upon completing the feature, the new map editing form experience is presented to us. Form creators now have the ability to make forms more intuitive for me by adding titles to a group of fields or providing hints on how to fill out a certain field. Notice once I select the planting status, my symbology is updated with the rich and performant vector symbology available in the new map viewer. The forms is also being configured with conditional logic to only show me this section if the questions above have been filled out. My life has been made even easier with fields that have been calculated for me using Arcade. By simply drawing a polygon, I now have statistics on coverage area, estimated number of plants, as well as an estimated cost ready to present back to my planting team. This configured form is now saved to the feature layer itself. This provides a more consistent editing experience between the map viewer, visualization tab, and here in field maps, with the changes persisting across all 3. Let's now finish off in the scene viewer. We're going to add in some content to build a 3D scene of Christchurch. Recently added to the Living Atlas are these 3D OpenStreetMap layers. Here we can add these in, these 3D buildings and 3D trees, to really provide that sense of scale and perspective here in the CBD. Now to add more detail to our scene, let's add in a 3D mesh layer of the Christchurch CBD, a publicly available layer provided by Environment Canterbury. Now to remove some of these double ups in layers, let's use some of the new 3D spatial filter tools available in the scene viewer. By simply drawing a bounding box around the CBD here, I can choose to either exclude this data or choose to highlight it. In this case, I'll choose to exclude it to show off that really rich 3D mesh underneath. Now we can see some of the details of the buildings surrounding Te Pai here, such as the majestic Tūlanga Library, as well as the work-in-progress cathedral. Next, we want to provide the viewers with a little bit more information on some of the great spots around here in the CBD. New in this release, I can add in GeoJSON layers directly to the scene viewer. In this case, I'm going to add in some lunch spots. Now I've noticed they've missed out a really good one that I'm sure you'll appreciate. So let's go ahead and edit using some of the new editing tools in the map in the scene viewer. I can go ahead and add this feature using the same tools as we saw in the map viewer as well, with geometry guides allowing us to make that perfect rectangle. Cool, that's looking a little bit better. Our users now have the ability to place themselves within the scene with these familiar 3D features. But let's take up that realism one more notch and add in some of the new weather effects available in the scene viewer. Now, I definitely this morning wasn't expecting to show you this effect, what it looked like outside. But hopefully by the time it gets lunchtime, it looks a little bit more like this, allowing us to get outside and enjoy those great lunch spots and maybe throw a snowball or two. But really, that's it. That's all I have for you and what's new in the ArcGIS Online platform. I challenge you all to go out and try some of these new features when you get back to your offices next week. But with that, back to you, Scott.
Thanks to Ashley and James there. You may have seen that in some of James' examples there, we saw this building, Te Pai, in its still being constructed phase. So watch this space for later on. We may have some more updated data about it. Apps are the delivery container for your web maps, the user interface where your user's experience is actually delivered. Web applications offer a highly flexible and extremely popular means of delivering this for your users quickly and easily via a simple browser. Choosing and then configuring these web apps correctly is critical to the success of GIS deployments. And the instant apps within ArcGIS Online and also within ArcGIS Enterprise allow you to very quickly create slick apps for users to interact with your maps and your data. Choosing and then configuring these apps, within 5 minutes, you can select a template, choose configuration options, and share a web app that addresses your audience's needs. You can also confidently use instant apps knowing that they are built to support accessibility across audiences and across devices. One of the great things about WebGIS is the ability to choose the right tool or app for the job. And one of New Zealand's favourite tools is the dashboard. Dashboards are highly configurable, data-driven web applications which bring together various forms of data in maps and layers, allowing you to create engaging and dynamic views with linked charts and indicators. These can be used to view key metrics and trends at a glance without having to touch your mouse. Recent improvements in these applications include accessibility enhancements, as I mentioned before, download options, and also optimizations for performance when using multiple data feeds. While these dashboards are used by almost every sector, I'd say keep your eyes open when watching the news during events like weather or flooding events, where you often see New Zealand's emergency services using these to track the situation in near real time. To hear about some of the exciting upcoming features in this area and the whole ArcGIS system, remember to join us back here tomorrow for tomorrow afternoon's Road Ahead session. Everyone loves maps and everyone loves stories. So when these are combined in the form of story maps, you have an easy to make but highly engaging way to present your data along with a narrative, all via a browser. These rich web applications continue to be enhanced with new features, including the 3D map tour, a chance to show off your Python skills, and also including some automation. Now, while story maps, as you know them, have been around for several years and have been used by individuals, groups and companies to tell their spatial stories, Esri recently announced a new kind of story map aimed specifically at those wanting to create and share personal stories, travel stories, family stories, hobbies or adventure stories. Personal storytelling is now easier than ever before with personal story maps. Check them out and sign up at storymaps.com. Now, whether you're using the ArcGIS story maps we saw in the previous slide or these new personal story maps, the NZEUC 2022 Story Map competition is still open until 7 p.m. tonight. This is your chance to win a trip to the 2023 Esri User Conference in San Diego. So if you want to learn more about that, go to the Eagle stand at the break, not right now, wait till lunchtime and check it out. But it's open till 7 p.m. and it's a really amazing prize. App builders allow you to go that bit beyond the out-of-the-box configurable applications, whether it's for web or for mobile or for both, but still without the need to be a full developer. These low-code and no-code options are great frameworks to quickly create apps which you can use to very closely meet your organization or users' needs. The Pocket Maps application we looked at earlier was a great example of an App Studio application created for on and offline use by the New Zealand public across New Zealand. On the web side, the New Zealand organizations, many New Zealand organizations have been making use of the web app builder for a number of years. And while many of you have now migrated to the next generation of this in the form of Experience Builder, some have still to make that migration. So we'd recommend that you move your applications across to the next generation, which is Experience Builder. This offers a much more flexible experience for users and for the developers alike. To tell us and show us more about Experience Builder, I want to pass over to Lauren McCartney.
Cool. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Now, just as you've heard, there are a range of web apps within the ArcGIS system that are designed for specific purposes. But what about bringing together and extending these apps potentially through one experience, Q Experience Builder? Built on the JavaScript 4.x API, Experience Builder leverages the latest and greatest to give you more modern and more performant web applications. You have access to a variety of designer-made templates. You can bring in maps and apps and feature layers both in 2D and in 3D. And you can also integrate with your existing ArcGIS applications. So let's take a look. This here is the Aotearoa Biodiversity Impacts and Risk Data Explorer, or BIRDI. Built using the new Sketchbook template, the design lets you showcase content dynamically from an underlying feature layer. In this case, we're looking at biodiversity impacts within New Zealand. Scrolling down, I can view an overview of species distribution. Now, the great thing here is this template is designed to allow us to easily prompt discussion through having a Sketchpad style map where we can go ahead and add on an area of interest where we want to focus conservation efforts. Now, let's go and explore one of the key impacts to habitat loss. Here we have a map-centric application showing impacts contributing to habitat loss. We can explore pressures such as wildfires using the new timeline widget, which is a recent addition to Experience Builder in the latest release. Now, wildfires can start from many sources. They can be lightning strikes, agricultural harvests, slash and burn, or arson. But as summers become hotter and we receive less rain in some areas, drought-induced wildfires will become more common and they will become more severe, and this will dramatically impact habitats within New Zealand. Moving from this risks view, we can go and have a look at observations of species that would be affected by this change. Now, there is one thing that I do have to highlight, and it has taken perhaps a bit of a slower route from Web App Builder to Experience Builder. It is a fan classic, an absolute favourite. You've asked enough about it. It's print. Thank you. Print is now available in Experience Builder. That is not print. Can we go back to me? There we go, okay, cool. Print is available in Experience Builder, so you have full configuration options available to you, and you also have the ability to preview the print extent before you go and create that paper magic. So please have fun with that. Now, while there are the risks, and these are things that we do need to mitigate, it is also obviously very worthwhile making sure that we celebrate the amazing biodiversity that we do have within New Zealand. And we can do this through focused applications like the BIRDI Dash. So this here is an application that allows us to click through and see the distribution of species in New Zealand. We can see where they're located, their status, and we can even hear their bird song. Which would be coming through the audio. Never mind, all good. Thanks, team. Cool. So it is playing, I can see it's playing, but the audio is not coming through, but that's okay. So the point is that you can have these applications in here that allow you to focus on direct species. Now moving more to the builder side, this here is the builder interface for Experience Builder. You can add in widgets, you can configure different pages, you can control your data sources, and then you can control your utility services and themes. Now, Experience Builder is available to you in 3 ways. You have it through ArcGIS Online, you have it through ArcGIS Enterprise, and you have it through the developer edition that you can download and build upon yourself. But I can imagine there's maybe a couple of people out there that are looking for something that's maybe a little bit more than out of the box, maybe a little bit less than having to stand up the developer edition yourself. And this is where the new enhancement to host custom widgets in ArcGIS Enterprise 11 comes in. Now, the best thing about this is that you do not need to be a developer to add these widgets in yourself. Here, I have a live weather widget created by someone much cleverer than me, but it is mine now because I stole it. And this widget is pretty cool. It takes the current location on the map and returns real-time weather and lighting conditions at that location. The widget then extends the 3D weather effects that we saw James show to create a realistic simulation, and this is thanks to the latest tools in the Esri JavaScript API. So Experience Builder widgets are hosted as items, and then when you're back in the builder here, you can see them available in the custom section down the bottom of the widgets panel. So I can just go and drag that across. I can assign that to my web scene, and then I can see it pull in the real-time weather information. Having that embedded in applications such as Birdie, we can give audience a more interactive understanding of the weather at the time and how this affects species distribution. And this would have been cooler if I was before James at the start of the morning, but that's okay, we'll deal with it. It's a great day for showing weather effects, I've learnt that. So whether you're a low effort, no code app creator like me, or you like to sprinkle in some code on those special occasions, Experience Builder really is a great go-to option. So I just suggest going and checking it out and seeing what's coming in the year ahead. Thanks.
Thank you, Lauren. Just to emphasize that weather is coming through a real-time feed. So as you may know, Local Maps is an Eagle technology product designed to complement your wider ArcGIS system by adding such features as interactive galleries, slick user map applications, reporting, integration, and much more. The current 2.x technology of Local Maps is built upon Esri's web application builder that we mentioned previously, and is used either for internal or external facing web mapping by over 50 organisations across New Zealand and in fact across the globe. As you heard a little earlier, the next generation of app builder is Experience Builder, and the development team led by Lauren is busy creating the next generation of Local Maps. In fact, one component of this 3.x version of Local Maps technology is already available in beta form, the Calcite design system-based gallery application. To tell us more about what's new in Local Maps, let's hand back to Lauren and also to the lead developer, Josh.
Awesome, thank you. Great, so today we want to focus on the next level of Local Maps. These are the capabilities and the integrations that are built on top of Local Maps to extend how organisations access their data and content from other systems, or to improve efficiencies through tailored tools and modules. Now, throughout the last year, we have had a large focus on the integration front with new capabilities like integrating or reaching into systems like Technology One Cloud, Info Pathway, and Civica Authority. And this can be done directly from the Local Maps viewer. But this morning, however, we want to take you through how some customers are leveraging 2 of the new modules that we've brought out in Local Maps. Firstly, for property management and navigation of complex related data. And then we'll be having a look at how to seamlessly explore and navigate rich asset data at one of New Zealand's largest international facilities. So to take us away, we're going to hand it over to Josh.
Awesome, thanks Lauren.
Let's have a look at how
Fonterra can use the new property module to view, manage and export property information.
We're looking to collate some information on drainage rights for a dairy factory in Kaipara.
Well, our journey today begins in the Local Maps gallery, And here you can see Fonterra using a number of the new version 3 gallery features. Up the top we see this banner configured, temporary banner configured to link to an information page. And then we've got a hero image with overlay gradients and text. And then above this category filter section we've configured some text with help information. And then if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see we've also added some copyright information. We've got access to tools for viewing and editing property information, as well as links to dashboards and external tools. And all of these are secured, as you can see from the lock icon in the bottom left-hand corner of the cards. Let's have a look at this property information viewer. When this loads, first we'll search for the property we're interested in finding out more information about. And as we know the address, we'll use that.
So let's just use that. And well, as you'll see in
our map we have access to both our own editable property information as well as Lynn's property information. So we'll select this area and then we'll click through to the underlying title pop-up. This is our property module entry point.
As you can see,
we can click through to see information on the selected title, or we can go in through the address, which is highlighted on the map when we hover. And here we can see the parcel associated with this address and all titles associated with the parcel. And we can also go off and see all memorials. That's things like encumbrance, easement and ownership information associated with each of these titles. The exciting thing about this property module is that all you can see here is configured. Nothing's hard-coded. There's two key patterns of use for the module. You can either use your own hosted version of the property data, as Fonterra are doing here, or you can use the Lynn's hosted services. And if you want, you can even use a hybrid approach, linking in your own feature services and your non-spatial database systems. We've implemented configurable page linking, text and value formatting to give you the ultimate flexibility.
There's only one parcel associated with this address. And if we
there's only one parcel with this address, and if we hover over the two, we can see that the title and the parcel occupy the same area. So we're going to go off and use the query tool to see all of the Fonterra-owned titles in this area. And as you can see here, we've got a range of different queries. We can query title information, parcel information, we can even query non-spatial information. We can query all 30 million memorials across the whole country, and then we can find related spatial features.
But in this case, we just
want to search for title owners.
Once we've done that, we can click on a title.
We can click on a title to open up the property module. And then we can go back and view another title. Let's look at the main title for this factory.
We can see
from this results list that there's two parcels associated with this main title. And we can hover over each of these to see the location on the map. If we click on one, we'll see that the map zooms to its location.
And
then again, we can go back and all of the information is cached, so we can just go back to our main view.
If we expand the memorials,
and then if we go off and expand the memorials, we'll see that there's several memorials here related to our wastewater rights.
So let's
conclude by exporting this data on memorials to help with our historic property research. Awesome, thanks. Hopefully that gives you a taste for how Local Maps is useful for property management. Back to you, Lauren.
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Moving now to another example of how Local Maps is being used, in this case for facilities management, operations and to support overall decision making at Auckland International Airport. Here we are looking at a detailed map of the buildings, of the airport's buildings and structures, and as you can imagine the airport manages numerous assets and utilities across the complex. To provide a more seamless transition between floors in the terminal, they're using the new Local Maps layer theme switcher. This allows them to move between layer groupings, in this case floors, while switching out the necessary layers behind the scenes. Having multiple themes available in one map makes it much easier for the staff to navigate that data. Now, say staff receive a call from a customer asking about whether the departure information on the flight information display is correct. Thanks to a custom arcade expression, they can view that flight information in real time before going onto the ground and talking to the customer. So this is allowing that integration through arcade. Zooming out again, we'll turn on the structures in the airport this time. And viewing the pop-up for that, we can see another arcade expression has been used, this time to integrate with their SharePoint system, allowing us to see information related to the walkway canopy in this case. So While looking the same, Auckland Airport are integrating seamlessly through to various internal systems, all from one spatial entry point, and that is local maps. Now, the layer theme switcher that we saw before allows for that floor level exploration. However, if we change to the all utilities map, we can see that they're now using this to switch between utility groupings here. So it's the same module, it's been configured slightly differently and put into each of these maps here to create clever efficiencies for the users. Heading now to the airfields map. This map is used by staff to plan out maintenance programs to repair the concrete on the tarmac. Now, before maintenance can be done, a review of any recent geotechnical reporting must be completed. Now, the geotechnical layer is not actually in this map here, so I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. Now, looking at this here, you would imagine this would be another arcade integration. However, this time, because we've had to add this in dynamically rather than the layer residing in the underlying web map itself, the clever folk have used some custom HTML to create an integration allowing them to see that report. Again, it's that same look and feel from local maps, but they've done it in a slightly different way. So viewing that spatial data and the non-spatial reports in SharePoint, the airport can better inform field staff before maintenance is performed. And these are field staff that are going out on the ground and using the ArcGIS field applications to update and edit this data. Data that is feeding into the repairs dashboard here. Now, all of these applications, both from local maps and from these other applications within the ArcGIS system, are all accessible via their local maps gallery they have there as their spatial entry point. So the work that Mike and the team are doing at Auckland Airport has created many efficiencies for users. So we're going from that floor switching to allow for easy navigation between floors in the complex, and then looking at arcade integration to allow them to go into other systems and access that information. Now, I hear that ArcGIS Insights is the next cab off the rank for Auckland Airport, so it'll be very exciting to see what they can do next. Thank you.
Thanks very much to Lauren and to Josh. As you can see, Local Maps is a great way to bring information together and elegantly navigate through relatively complex things, whether it be property information or assets in Auckland Airport. Presenter view on the foot screens, please. There we go. From perhaps being vector data's poor cousin, raster data, and specifically imagery, has taken a huge leap forward, both in its use and its usefulness. This imagery explosion is driven by the massive increase in availability, quality, and richness of the data itself, coupled with rapid development of the software capabilities to use, analyze, and exploit this information, including web and mobile platforms. We're seeing that this is opening up a vast number of uses and opportunities, whether for map production, visualization, or for analysis. I want to ask Boudewijn back again to the stage to tell us more about the latest developments for imagery across ArcGIS. Boudewijn.
Thank you. Let's see if we're looking at an image of the Sentinel-2 satellite. So this is a layer streaming straight from the Living Atlas item for the Sentinel-2 data. And it was taken on the morning of 17 August, during the midst of the weather event that especially at the top of the South Island real hard. But there's another image that was taken during this time, and that was from Sentinel-1. And Sentinel-1 uses radar, and radar has the ability to look through clouds, smoke, vegetation, and that makes it real useful if you don't have a clear view, well, for us of the sky, but for the satellite of the Earth. So this is what an image looks like, but let's zoom in a little bit here on Canvastown. And let's zoom in a little bit further on the river here. Because if we use the slide functionality, we can see that it's not in the right location. And that's inherent to this type of imagery. Also, it's quite noisy. But new in ArcGIS Pro 3.0 are tools to clean up this imagery, but also to put it in the right location. So after we've done that, it looks like this, and now it's what is called analysis ready. So in another map, I've added two images, one of 16 August and the other of 18 August, and we can clearly see the changes between these two images. And the dark areas that you see are flooded areas around the river. So even though there's no clear view using satellite 2 imagery or aerial imagery, we can still get this information, and we can use this to draw our flood polygons. But we can also ask ArcGIS Pro to help us a little with that. So using the change detection wizard, we can put in a before and after image. We set a couple of parameters, and then we ask it to check where the most change has happened. And we can see in red where the most change has happened. And interactively, we can change the class to set it to a class level that we think is suitable. And we can then export this as a raster layer for further analysis or processing, or we can save it as a raster function, so we can apply it to new data that comes in or to another region. But now I want to look at where all that weather came from, where all that water came from. And we know it's come from up there, but we can have a look at it in ArcGIS as well. And NOAA has a great site where you can get a lot of global weather information and climate data. And one of the data sets that you can download from there is the Global Forecasting System. So that is a model that runs 4 times a day, every 6 hours, and it does forecasts out to 15 days, but also gives you the current state of the weather. The data is being delivered to you as GRIP files, and these are multidimensional data sets. So in this data, there are over 600 different variables and dimensions. And just like NetCDF, ArcGIS Pro can read this data. So let's have a look at what it looks like in ArcGIS Pro. And here we're looking at a multidimensional mosaic data set. And I've made a selection of the variables that I'm interested in and added those to the mosaic data set. And here we're looking at the pressure. But we can also change the visualization to look at the precipitation. And the map will update automatically, and we can see some precipitation here. Another one that is quite interesting is the amount of water that is in the atmosphere. So here in yellow we can see where most of the water is. And we can also select a different time dimension. So we can jump through time, and what we can actually see here, this yellow bit, as we jump through time, that is what was called the atmospheric river, that basically brought down all the water that fell down as rain. And what I can do now is I can analyze this data using the multidimensional analysis tools like aggregating it. But what I want to do now is using a new capability in ArcGIS Online and actually share this data, this multidimensional data, to ArcGIS Online. So using a simple button, I can upload this imagery as an actual image service to ArcGIS Online. And once we've got it there, we can do the same as in ArcGIS Pro. We can jump through time and look where the precipitation was. But we can also analyze this data in ArcGIS Online. So using the raster analysis tools, specifically the ones for multidimensional rasters, we can aggregate this data. So for all the time slices that we have, we can sum up the precipitation. And once we do that, we get a new raster layer that has the accumulated rainfall. And that is what I'm showing in this map. If we now identify on this layer, we get a number that doesn't, well, it didn't mean much to me. So this is the number of kilograms per square meter that comes down every second over that time period. We're more used to using millimeters, so what we can do is using a raster function inside of ArcGIS Online, add that to the data, and then when we request the same data, we actually get it in millimeters. And 715 millimeters, just for reference, where I'm from, the Netherlands, this is what we get in a year on average. So that's a lot of water that came down. But stepping away from analysis now, we can also use ArcGIS Online to visualize this data. And using the new blending effects, we can add this atmospheric water and actually visualize that atmospheric river that everybody talked about. But we can also add in the precipitation, and we can add in the wind. But using a new feature in ArcGIS Online, the flow renderer, we can make it a little bit more dynamic by changing the wind arrows for a flow renderer showing the direction and the speed of the wind. So ArcGIS supports almost any imagery type, and it allows you to analyze the data and manage the data. And with ArcGIS Image for ArcGIS Online, it's now even easier to do all of that work in the cloud. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boudewijn. You could say that drone mapping is also taking off in popularity and providing an option for high-resolution focused data capture of natural and built environments. Whether using SiteScan or drone to map, these applications have recently both benefited from significant enhancements to the processing engines within them, allowing for more accurate and faster outputs in various different formats. So to learn more about these, don't forget to check out the imagery, LiDAR and drone session that Boudewijn and his colleagues will be running on Thursday morning. Cool. That brings us to the end of part one for this morning's plenary session. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We've got a lot more to come back to in half an hour or so. Please do make your way up to the Conway foyer upstairs where morning tea is being served. And please can I ask you to be back in your seats by 11 o'clock for part two, where we've got ArcGIS Pro, mobile apps, developer tools, and some very cool advanced analysis. See you soon.